Oh my goodness, I am so happy I have the opportunity to get on here and um, be able to continue to have some type of communication with you all. I miss you all so much, and I cannot wait till we go back. Um, as other teachers have said before, believe it or not, we do really want to see you again and want to finish off the year strong with you all. So we are going to, in the meantime, just adjust. But I hope that you are staying safe, that you are staying healthy, that you are staying productive, that you have considered or actually opened up a book or two over this break. We're going to continue with Out of the Dust. Our conversations about Out of the Dust are not done. We are about halfway through the book, I believe. We have finished through. Our last chapter took us to page 149. Our last chapter was Following His Steps, yet another death. That was of Hayden Parley Nye's wife. And we were getting ready to kind of closing in on the book and reading Spring 1935 next. But before getting there, we were working on an argumentative essay. Remember, the prompt for the argumentative essay, very important, was about how the dust storms are affecting Billie Jo and her family and her community. So we came up with a claim statement and 3 reasons. As a recap, we've really just read a lot about Billie Jo's family, Billie Jo's situation, the circumstance in which she's living, how death is a very important part of her story, how she loses people very near and dear to her, as well as people in her community are dying. So she's continuing to play piano. People in the community are, of course, not having an easy time. We have, in the case of, for example, we have a whole family moving into the classroom because the dust storm destroyed their house, and they're trying to go somewhere else, maybe to the west. So if they're in Oklahoma, they're going to California. They are trying to find a better way of life and leaving behind Oklahoma, of course, all those dust storms. And we discovered that the family ends up finally, after staying there a couple days, leaving and going back to the and then actually continuing on to their next destination. And Billie Jo is, of course, very sad. Other important parts include Dad is trying to go back to school. Her relationship is not very strong. Remember that Daddy is considering night school. There is the dust pneumonia killing people. There is the poem where Pete Guyman, the person who would drive a truck of produce and then he was the supplier for grocery stores, dies out of dust pneumonia. So Mr. Hardley, a grocery store owner, has nobody to supply produce, so has to find somebody else. The community, though, is affected because Pete Guyman got along very well. Although he was an old man, got along very well with Mr. Hardley's son. They had a good connection. They would talk about basketball. They would talk about, it says the Wildcats losing. They would talk about, and Cal Hardley, the son, would make fun of the wheezy, Mr. Guyman's wheezy truck. And so when Pete Guyman dies, Kalb has nobody really interested in what he has to say, and nobody there really as a person to talk to, and so he loses a friend. Our argumentative essay that we were in the middle of writing was talking about just that. How is a dust storm affecting Billie Joe's family and her community? And we came up with a wonderful claim. We said Billie Joe's family and community are impacted by dust storms because they are not allowed to live happy and healthy lives. As for our body paragraphs, we came up with 3 reasons to back up that claim. 3 reasons. They varied, but some of the ones that I saw you all come up with were, for example, people are dying of dust pneumonia. That ties back to the claim that health is being affected. You also said that Daddy is left without work because of dust storms affecting the fields, so that affects happiness. He's not able to provide for his family. He's not able to plant wheat or to grow wheat, and obviously that makes him unhappy. So Billie Joe's family is affected, and that's how we're tying to the claim. So how do dust storms continue to affect this? What is a 3rd reason? One other good reason is people are not allowed to do daily tasks, daily activities. For example, go outside or enjoy the outdoors, things like that. They're constantly having to, for example, wipe down surfaces instead of doing other things, right? So that affects their happiness. And those were some of the 3 reasons that I heard you all come up with. So I'm going to go over one good paragraph that I wrote, one good body paragraph that I wrote, and we're going to see if you can identify what the reason is, what the explanation is, what the evidence is, after every evidence we have explanation again, and then every time we have an evidence we'll do that again. So see if you can identify where the reason, explanation, evidence, explanation, evidence, explanation are at. Here we go. Okay, so before I do anything else, I want to share with you 3 resources that you can use no matter what. If you run out of things to do, there are always these 3 options. So one of them is clever.com. You can log in using your student account information and go into iReady. On iReady, you can choose between reading or math lessons, but everything that you need for those lessons is there. All you need is a computer for that. So there's that option. There's also, of course, limitless libraries. You can log in and look for ebooks that are available for you to read. I recently got through my, last night, I've read the first Harry Potter book. And I'm now going to go into limitless libraries and try to find the ebook, since I'm not able to actually go to the library to pick anything up. I will look for the second book on there. There's also my 3rd resource that I was able to find. There is an app called Libby. It's Libby. This is a wonderful, wonderful app. It is this right here, the last one, sorry. Well, when you open it up, it looks like that, but Libby, just look that up on the Play Store, and you will find Through that app, you are able to also access resources. All you need is your library card number, and it'll help you find your actual library, the library closest to you that's assigned to you, and then from that library, it'll choose what options for ebooks are available, and you, without a need of having to go to that library, you can have access to the books that they have. So I recently checked out the audiobook and just the regular print. Ooh, this is bad. The regular print book for a book called let's see. On the come up. There it is. So you can see that I have the audiobook and I also have the regular book, and I prefer this one. I like to do my reading. So you have that. Those are your 3 options. Please, 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 please take advantage of those. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at a body paragraph that I wrote. In this example, we have a reason statement. A reason statement, it's in green, and we have 2 different pieces of evidence. These are in pink. We also, of course, have explanations, and the explanations come after the reason and come after the evidence, right? We want to explain our reason even further. We want to explain our evidence even deeper. So, let's take a look at the way in which I cited evidence. In my paragraph, every time I talked about a poem, I named a poem, I included quotes. I put them in quotes. So Beat Wheat was one of them, as well as Driving the Cows. That was another poem we read in the chapter Winter 1935, I believe. Well, so not only are the poem names in quotes, but so are the actual word-for-word sentences or phrases from the text. So here's one. I wince at the sight of his rib-thin cattle. Right? Every time we take word-for-word phrases, we have to include quotes. Now, quotes and word-for-word sentences / phrases are really important because they provide proof. They provide proof that we are right in what we say when we give our reason, that our reason is true. So it's proof, in other words, evidence. Now, all of that together is important because if our reason is correct, then our claim is made even stronger. Our claim seems more correct, is made more correct, right? Now, not only do I give 1 piece of evidence, but I give 2 per body paragraph. So in this body paragraph, I'll start off by reading it, and then I will walk you through a couple questions. So one effect of the dust storm is that it is killing the farmers' animals. The dust rips their food out of the ground and also clogs their lungs, suffocating them. In the poem Beat Wheat, Billy Joe says about Joe de la Flor, I wince at the sight of his rib-thin cattle. Page 39. The cattle are thin because they haven't had enough to eat. In the poem Driving the Cows, Billy Joe says that County Agent Dewey came to shoot Joe de la Flor's cows. She says it is too hard to watch their lungs clog with dust like our chickens suffocated. Page 102. These passages describe how the dust has negatively affected both Billy Joe's animals and those of her neighbor. So as you can tell, right, this is a very strong paragraph. What makes it strong? Well, let's talk about how did I explain what I meant when I said the dust was killing the animals. How did I explain that? I gave the reason, dust is killing the animals. That ties to my claim because, right, if animals are being affected, that affects that affects Billy Joe's family, that affects the community, and all that is caused by the dust, right? Our essay is all about how the dust is impacting Billy Joe's family and her community. So that's that, but how did I further explain it? I said the dust rips their food out of the ground and also clogs their lungs, suffocating them. Right? I did not just say that it's killing animals. I said how? Well, it's clogging their lungs, it's suffocating them. Now, how did I connect the evidence to my reason? Right? How did I connect my evidence to my reason? Well, if my reason talks about animals, it talks about dust. I said, in the poem, Beat Wheat, Billy Joe says about Joe de la Flor, I wince at the sight of his rib-thin cattle. This is mentioning animals, right? Cattle. And it's really discussing how Billy Joe is not really pleased, doesn't look at doesn't look at the cattle with pleased eyes, right? She's more worried, concerned. They're described as thin, right? All of this ties to the reason, right? Thin, if they're thin, they're more likely to die. In other words, the dust is really killing them. So I explain it further to make that clear for my reader. The cattle are thin because they haven't had enough to eat. That is even stronger, or an even stronger response, because now I'm really saying how that dust is leading to animals being killed. Another evidence, I say, in the poem Driving the Cows, Billy Joe says that County Agent Dewey came to shoot Joe de la Flor's cows. She says it is too hard to watch their lungs clog with dust like our chickens suffocated. Right. Cows, chickens, all those are the animals, and then we also have how they're actually being shot by people, yes, but because of the dust, right? It's too hard to watch their lungs clog with dust. The dust will eventually kill them. So even if the people are the ones shooting them, it's because of the dust. So all again tying back to our reason, again tying back to our claim in the long run. Now, I explain this saying these passages describe how the dust has negatively affected both Billy Joe's animals and those of her neighbor, right? This is bringing back my claim even more by mentioning that Billy Joe's animals, that's her family, and also her neighbor. That's part of the community. So, very good paragraph. I did the identifying for the most part. I identified the reason, I identified the explanation, the evidence, and I walked you through how I explained my evidence further. Now, it is going to be your task to do that with a completely written essay. We have an exemplar response. We have an argumentative essay that would have looked like yours if we would have had the chance to write it, but in this case, what I want you to do is take, and you all were getting very, very close to this, I assure you. Now, it's going to be your task to read through it very, very carefully, and on a separate sheet of paper, write down where the claim is. Now, if you remember from what we talked about, our claim is going to be part of our intro paragraph. And it's going to read a lot like the claim we came up with in class. Now, our reasons, sometimes it'll give you a clue where the reason are, right? We're looking for 3 reasons in this essay. It's our reasons are really what the meat of our essay, and they are going to be mostly at the top of it's going to be the first thing in our body paragraphs. That's going to be our reason. You're also going to look for where the evidence is and where the explanations are. Where am I explaining in this essay? Where do you see explanations happening? Now, if you don't have a chance to print this out, I will try to send your families a copy of this document, so that way you can print it if that's a possibility. If not, just pause this video, read it, and then write down on a separate sheet of paper where is the claim. You can write it in blue, or once you write it, highlight it. All right, we identify, when we identify a claim, we know we've always used the color blue for that, and for our reasons we've been using the color green. Use pink for evidence, and leave blank, leave unhighlighted any of those sentences that are an explanation. Like I said, you can either highlight on this paper if you can print it, or write them on a separate sheet of paper. Alright, either way will be a good practice. Even if you have to do a bit of writing, it's going to be good practice for all of us. So before I leave you, just want to remind you that you need to be reading 20 minutes per night. I want you to enjoy yourself with as many books as you can. I am currently doing my own reading, as I showed you, and I want the same for all of you. Next, if you are feeling challenged and you are feeling up to the challenge, you can write a paragraph about what connections do you see between what's happening in real life today, in our life, in the world, and what happens in the book, right? I see so many connections with what's happening in the book and what is happening in real life. So write a paragraph for me, and when I see you, hopefully you can share that with us. Now, that's all. And next week I will be sending you another video, hopefully, with the continuation of our book. So we'll hopefully get to read or get into the next chapter of our book. Alright, I will talk to you soon. Bye.